Yo, it's your boy Bomber here, Vega Bomber. Welcome to Vega Bomber Land. Alright, so check this out. We already know that Disney is doing nothing but printing money this year. How do we know that? Well, there's a film coming out called Avengers 2, Age of Ultron, and that's coming out in about a month from today. That's going to do crazy box office numbers. We also know that in December, another property that they acquired, Star Wars, and in this case, Star Wars The Force Awakens, will come out in December 18. So now Disney has two big properties that are coming out in the same year. And, well, come on. They both have a huge, big fan base. And so the question becomes, which one's going to do more? Which one's going to be bigger and better and all that? Now, before you think it might just be Star Wars, there might be some other things that we can look at that might show that Marvel has grown a pretty fast fan base pretty quickly as well. So we're going to look at that. So if you will, this is Bomber's version of Ultimate Fighting, if you will. So I'm going to put up the Star Wars episodes 1 through 6 against the Marvel products that are owned by Disney, which would be basically Iron Man 1 to now. Now I know there's more films over here on this side, but that's okay. There's even a bigger fan base on this side. And so I want to put them together, a versus, if you will. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to do it by breaking it down into 6 categories. That's right, 6 categories. The first category is going to be heroes. The second category is going to be villains. The third category is going to be plot or storyline. The fourth category is going to be overall popularity, and fifth category is going to be film versus film, and the sixth category is going to be projected revenue. What we know, basically, what we can project for right now, which the studios do, but we'll do it the same way. So strap yourself in. This one should go there. So let's start off with the very first category, putting Star Wars versus Marvel, since they're both coming out this year. Star Wars versus Avengers, really, since they're both coming out this year. So let's look at Star Wars. And in the first category, heroes, let's look at the heroes in Star Wars. So in Star Wars, you're going to have Han Solo, the rogue with the golden heart. You got Princess Leia, who goes through the government to then fight for a country and be a hero, or actually for a people or a group of people or a universe. You got Luke Skywalker, the farm boy who has aspirations of being bigger and better but doesn't know what it is until he meets Ben Kenobi, who's also a hero because he's the one that mentors Luke and gets Luke on the path that sets him out to finally meet his dad. Oh, spoiler alert, if you didn't know that Luke's dad was, well, anyway. And then I guess if you look at the newer trilogy, the prequels, I guess you could include Mace Windu and all those other Jedis in the Jedi Council that we really don't have much on. And oh, by the way, you also have to throw Yoda in there. Don't mean to forget Yoda. So Yoda's also in there. So there's the heroes from that Star Wars universe. There could be more, but these are at least the main ones. Now, let's look at the heroes in Marvel. In Marvel, let's see. Well, let's just take the Avengers, for example. I know this is not a fair one-to-one comparison. It's not maybe apples to apples, but we're going to make this fun. We're speculating anyway. So Marvel, well, in terms of heroes, let's just go with the Avengers 2. So you've got Hulk, Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, Black Widow, Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, Vision in this one. And of course we know about other properties that may come over at some point, like Spidey and certainly Wolverine. So in the category of heroes, I would say that Star Wars has the more developed heroes, but clearly Marvel has to win this one. Advantage Marvel. How many heroes do they have in the Marvel universe that are completely just icons all over the world, whether they're owned by Disney or not? Category 2, villains. Well, let's look at Star Wars first. So with Star Wars, you have guys like this, and you have guys like this. All right? So Darth Vader, most iconic villain ever. You got Jabba the Hutt, mean, nasty, a gangster, right? One of the original gangsters, OGs, right? And then, of course, you can add in a number of assassins or bounty hunters, if you will. And, of course, I would actually, from the prequels, add in Darth Maul. I thought Darth Maul was one of the best things about Episode 1. But somehow we didn't have the foresight not to kill him. Oh, well. guess it happens. So, in terms of villains, Star Wars is definitely on the map there. Let's look at Marvel. How about Marvel on villains? Well, there's this guy, and then there's this guy, and then after that, question mark? Now, since Marvel has more films, you would think that they would have better villains, or more villains. But as it turns out, they do have more villains, but are they really memorable? Think about it. Whiplash? I don't think so. Or how about Malekith? Yeah, I don't think so. I thought Curse was good in Thor 2, but really he was just kind of the muscle for Malekith, who was weak, got his butt kicked by Frigga, Thor's mom. Sorry, that's lame. The Red Skull was your garden variety mustache twirling, I've got to have the MacGuffin, you know, and that's it. So he was lame, even though I like, you know, Hugo Weaving. I love Hugo Weaving, but sorry. And then even if you look at the Guardians of the Galaxy, so far Thanos has done nothing. Well, I know he hasn't had much screen time, but in the time that you did give him, I don't fear Thanos. You know, so Guardians of the Galaxy also had a weak villain problem, and Lee Pace's character, I already forget his name already, Conan, Korath, whatever his name was. That's how lame he was. I don't remember his name. All I know is that he had a chance to kill some people, but he let Star-Lord go ahead and get into a dance competition first. So I'm sorry. Weak villains. So in the category of villains, I would say the advantage goes to Star Wars, hands down. Everyone feared Darth Vader. Darth Vader was so menacing that when they created Darth Maul, they were trying to figure out how do we top a Darth Vader, and they got pretty close even with Darth Maul until they killed him in a crappy way. So I would say villains, for sure, the advantage goes to Star Wars. How about category number 3, plot storyline? Now, we don't know everything that's going on. All we have is basically a synopsis. So let's start with Star Wars first. What we know is that this is 30 years after Return of the Jedi. So what have Princess Leia, Han Solo, Luke, Lando, Chewie, and the droids, what have they been up to since then? Now, we can tell from just looking at the trailer that J.J. Abrams definitely made awesome, the teaser trailer anyway, that there seems to be some intrigue with this John Boyega's character and Daisy Ridley's character. And somehow this is all going to tie into and let us know something about how the Force Awakens. And without knowing who the bad guys really are just yet, that's intriguing. But that's all we know so far. Also, if we go look at Marvel, so now if we just go look at Marvel, we have the same thing. Since a movie comes out in about a month, we have to speculate again. But so far, the story plot line, or at least the synopsis is that Tony Stark, in order to try to create armor that would cover the whole world, creates the next villain. He creates an AI that basically has a different mindset, and that AI is Ultron. And Ultron looks like a really, really interesting villain and a really kick-butt villain as well. So if you look at that, I'd say the advantage right now, this one's going to be hard to call, so I'm going to say draw. Because we just got just what we have from just the trailers. And both trailers are good, both trailers are selling it, and both of them look like they're going to be good. So I'm going to call this one a draw. Let's go to category 4. How about popularity? Well, the interesting thing, let's start with Star Wars yet again. How many phrases have you heard just using the everyday lexicon of just language? How many people would say that let the Force be with you, or Luke, I am your father? That's been the joke, punchline, and everything. Almost every piece of pop culture you can imagine. It showed up in politics. It changed the way movies were being made. The Star Wars came out, the first one, episode 4, when it was just known as A New Hope, came out in 1977. It was the #1 movie for 20 years until a movie called Titanic came along. So a lot of people dress up, cosplay. There's books, comic books. There's toys. There's everything you could possibly imagine when it comes to Star Wars paraphernalia. I mean, you can get Ice Cube shaped like Yoda, this whole thing, right? So clearly set, right? How about Marvel? Well, Marvel also has toys, comic books, and people dress up as, say, the Avengers. And there's been more Nick Furies walking around now than ever before. This year there'll be more Scarlet Witches walking around than ever before. People do cosplay Marvel. They definitely cosplay Star Wars. But in terms of popularity and adding something to the pop culture, I'll say Marvel's just at the front end of it. But Star Wars has been doing it and doing it longer. Now, it's interesting because you could say, well, the first Avengers comic book, if we keep it Marvel and Avengers and Disney, the first Marvel comic book for Avengers came out in 1963. So it actually predates the first Star Wars movie. However, it's only been recently that Marvel has picked up the steam, since 2008, and created the juggernaut that is that universe now. I have to say on this one, this is a pretty easy one. The advantage goes to Star Wars in popularity. Category 5. How about Category 5? Category 5 is going to be films versus films. So let's take a look at them. Now, what I'm going to do here is kind of compare the 6 Star Wars films to the Marvel Universe films, starting with basically Captain America. I'm sorry, not Captain America, but Iron Man to now. Now, I know there's more films over here in the Marvel Universe, but we're going to compare them and look at them anyway. So it's not, again, the perfect analogy, but still, we're speculating. We're just having fun with this, right? So here we go. In terms of forgettable movies. In terms of forgettable movies, each property has a few. So let's look at Star Wars. Well, you probably already know where I might go with this. I would say that episodes 1, 2, and 3 were pretty low on that totem pole. They were clunkers. They did not deliver in the way that the OT did, the original trilogy. Now, looking at Marvel had some clunkers too. Iron Man 2 was very disappointing, especially after Iron Man 1. I'd say that the Hulk film was also, it was a good film, but it did poorly in the box office. Not too many people saw it, and it became pretty forgettable. And then you have Edward Norton in there. I don't know that I ever really bought Edward Norton as the Hulk or as Bruce or David Banner, either one. I don't know that I did. But the film I thought was okay, and I own it. And then I would say Thor 2 was kind of a letdown. With it coming out after something like Avengers and Iron Man 3 and all these other movies that have made it to show you how to make a good superhero movie. And I would say that the reason why I didn't like Thor 2 is because, again, the villain was weak. Malekith was absolutely lame. So Thor 2 coming out after all the movies that have actually set a bar and raised it higher, definitely disappointing. So I would say that you have some clunkers there. And again, we're only counting the Disney-owned Marvel films. We're not looking at Fox, and we're not looking at Sony, because then if we did that, boy, there'd be more. Daredevil, Elektra, anyone? Ghost Rider, anybody? Yeah. So let's talk about the superb films, though. So in the Star Wars collection, then, you're looking at episodes 4, 5, and 6. A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. Those films were superb. They did exactly what they needed to do. They lined everything up. They dealt with the characters. We got a chance to go through a full cycle with them and understand. Now, I didn't care too much for the Ewoks and Return of the Jedi, but at the end of the day, when I look at the Return of the Jedi, just Luke coming back with his new skills and everything, I think there was still enough of that movie to make that awesome. Now, what about Marvel? Well, Marvel has some pretty superb films too. And I would say Iron Man 1, right off the gate, was incredible. Robert Downey Jr., he is Tony Stark. You just can't miss on that one. I would say the Avengers, once they finally put them all together, not too many movies beat Avengers. Well, there's one, but that's another discussion, and we can do a video on that one. But Avengers was superb, you know. And then I'd also say that The Winter Soldier was superb. The rest were okay. Some were middle ground, and some were good. But I'm talking about superb. And I know that the OT was superb. So in this one, I see 3 good ones here, 3 good ones here. I would think that Marvel would have more, since by now you have better effects and better everything, and you've had movies like The Dark Knight come out and Sam Raimi's first Spider-Man to show you how to make a superhero movie. You would think there would be more in the Marvel canon that were superb, but I wouldn't say that they were all superb. Some of those 3 that I mentioned, in my opinion, were, and the rest were pretty good, and then some were just forgettable. You won't really remember the plot, the story, who the villain was, and what they were even trying to do. And that happens, that means the movie's kind of forgettable. So in this category, I'm going to say of course there's less movies for Star Wars. There's more for Marvel to get right. They got most of them right, but I'm going to call this one pretty much a draw, and mainly because, well, if Star Wars had more films, maybe it would be a little different, but they don't. So at this point, I'm going to call that one a draw. Let's look at category 6, the final category. And so on the final category, what we're looking at is projected revenue. Now, Marvel has got Age of Ultron coming out a month from the filming of this. And it's going to do great for the summer, and kids will be out for school, and then there'll be everybody going back because it's the second one. But how do we know what it's going to do? Now, Star Wars, on the other hand, we haven't had a Star Wars film in a while, so we've been waiting. There's more anticipation, and it's coming out in December. So you know there's going to be a plethora of toys. So revenue-wise, film receipts-wise, selling toys-wise, they're going to crush it around Christmas, and they're just going to kill it. So as far as I can tell, I'm giving this category Star Wars. I just think there'll be more people going out to watch this movie than the Age of Ultron. I think Age of Ultron will be close. I think it will give it a good run for its money. But we all know the top grossing movie of 2015, it's going to be Star Wars. So let's look at the tick marks and let's see what we've got. Heroes. For heroes, we said the advantage, Marvel. Villains, the advantage, Star Wars. In plot storyline, draw. We don't know very much about it, but for where it's at, pretty good. From the trailers, both trailers, very good. Popularity, advantage, Star Wars. Film versus film comparison, somewhat of a draw. Okay, and then finally, in the last category, projected revenue and overall feel about the film, it's going to Star Wars, man. And we'll check this video, because this video is going to be produced and put out today. Here it is, March 25th or 26th, and we'll see. Was I right? Was I wrong? Did Star Wars dominate, or did the Age of Ultron somehow sneak up and pass Star Wars? We'll see. Who knows, right? But I'm going to bet on Star Wars. Anyway, this is your boy Bomber, and I'm out. By the way, shout-outs. That's right. Need to give a shout-out to a couple people. I want to give a shout-out to my boy Prime. Thanks for checking out the channel. Thanks for subscribing. And certainly, you got my back. You just let me know, man. We'll hook each other up. We'll actually get on a video, and I'll introduce you to my audience, and we can just talk and do this thing, man. We both love films. We both love movies. We both love the Marvel Universe, Star Wars. So, to me, that just sounds like a good time. Anyway, it's your boy Bomber, and I'm out. You!